Welcome to Spill the Real podcast, the Margarita Book Club for women in their 40s navigating midlife, motherhood, marriage, and that nagging feeling that you should have life figured out by now but don't.
We're two 40-something moms of teenagers, married for years, probably in perimenopause, and still trying to lose the same 20 pounds we've been fighting for a decade.
This isn't about having all of the answers. It's about spilling the real conversations as we wish someone had with us sooner.
So grab a margarita or a coffee and let's spill the real.
All right, we are back for another podcast. This is episode 8, and we are talking about rewriting the rules of partnership at midlife, which we're going to be talking about marriage.
Well, yeah, everything revolves around midlife, right?
100%. 100%.
How we navigate that along with whatever we're talking about.
And marriage looks in that partnership, and I love how we didn't even put marriage in the title, because I feel as though it truly is, and that's a lot of my advice today, is truly is about understanding the partnership. Mm-hmm. It looks different. So like how that gets rewrote and what we now know after we talked about this before. I think I've been married almost 19 years, right? We come up with 19 years.
Yes. You're 19. I'm almost 22.
Wow.
I'll be 22 this year.
That ages us more than I feel like.
I know. It's weird because you're at the beginning, and then it's like, I don't know, the middle happens really fast.
Yes.
And then you're at 20, and that sounds like a long time.
Yes, it does. And we're going to talk about that today and what we've learned.
Yes.
So as we do in all of our podcasts, we love to start with some real talk questions. So I'm going to throw it at you first today.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So the real talk question is, what's one way marriage feels easier now or harder?
So, I don't know, just a little bit of background. I know we've talked about it before on a previous episode, kind of our story, our love stories. But so we were high school sweethearts, and I've been with him since I was a freshman in high school. So, I mean, we've grown up together,
right?
Really. I mean, and it's kind of cool, and it's kind of crazy at the same time. So we know each other really well, and inside and out, like that's a long time, and we've been with each other longer than we have not been with each other at this point. But I think probably the hard thing is the changing of things, like whether it's the kids getting older, perimenopause, the changes I'm going through, career changes, and it's like remembering to take each other along to with the other one,
right?
Instead of, I have a habit of just putting my head down and just going and not thinking about how it might affect somebody else, especially Neil. And probably the biggest thing for us is that I think is communication. That's been, sometimes it's the easiest thing, and then sometimes it's the hardest thing. So, but I think that's probably the key to everything.
Oh, I would totally agree, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into that a little bit. But I would think, being that you all were high school sweethearts, and now like you would think that communication is easier, because you would think that you would know what the other person's thinking or doing before they even think it or do it.
Right.
But also that probably does make it more challenging, because as you change or as your thoughts, it's harder to not feel like, oh, well, I thought you would be like this way because that's how you were 15, 20 years ago. Right.
Right.
I don't mean to put words in your mouth.
No,
but like,
that's
I think
exactly
that's the
right.
harder part, because you all have learned how to communicate and you can probably complete each other's thoughts or whatever. But yet that also could be a barrier in the communication as you all get older and change.
Right. And it's the changes, talking about the changes that we as women have gone through. We don't know what we're doing. And
we're psychos.
Yes. And sometimes I don't know how to convey that to him. Or I just don't think about him not knowing. Like, because I don't know. He doesn't know. I don't know how to tell you. Like, it's just
Right.
kind of
Ooh, that's a good thought.
feeling my way through it.
Mm.
And it's hard to remember to drag him along
Right.
with me.
Right.
So,
Mm.
all right. What about you?
So I think for me, the easier part of where we're at right now in marriage, it's easier like to trust. Like I'm like,
Mhm.
I dare you to leave me. Dare
Right.
you. Like I dare you try to find another, like it
Mhm.
as a joke, but like it's easier to trust because I'm more confident in the love that we have and the foundations that we've
Mhm.
built. So um and and it's easier because we have like a history, so like there's a lot of like
Right.
inside jokes and
Mhm.
consistency and like this fun this fun playfulness that happened when we were like building a life together, right? So
Mhm.
there's history, so that's easy. So trust is easy and you become confident in that. I think the harder part is being intentional,
Mhm.
because I feel like when there is history and there is trust, you sometimes might let yourself, like I'm going to talk a lot about that, like let yourself go, and then you have to almost be intentional, like, oh crap, when was the last time we went on a date? When was
Yeah.
the last time we were intimate? Like
Right.
what does that look like? Because you kind of, and I will talk about this, but like it's harder, and we have to be intentional or we're going to just become roommates.
Exactly.
And I find myself like shifting and trying to rewrite that because we're no longer building a life together. We are trying to build connection
Mhm.
because we've already built a life. Does that
Right.
make sense? Like
Yes. Yeah.
we're at
Yeah.
19 years of building a life. We've built the
Right.
life. We have the
Right.
kids, we have the house, we have the careers, we
Yes.
have the foundation. Now it's trying to not build that, it's trying to protect it.
Right.
So
Oh, that's
that's
a
the hard part.
mhm.
So
Yep.
yeah, I think that's a great segue, right?
Right. Right.
I like to say let's dive in.
Let's dive right in.
Let's dive right in. So, with that being said, of protecting it, and what are some things you've been married a little bit longer than, and y'all are high school sweethearts, and I think there's, what have you learned? Like you mentioned some like love language. Like what are some foundational things that you have leaned into to kind of build that life or build that partnership to be on steady ground?
I think that learning each other, even though we had been together, we were together as teenagers. Well, and and you change,
Mm,
you
mhm.
change, and it's like you said. There's so many times where you you do kind of become roommates because just life, just life happens
Mhm.
and things are going on, and you, you just sometimes don't have the time to make the time for a little while. Time
Right.
a lot of time goes by sometimes, and you're like, oh, just like you
Mm,
said, oh, we haven't been on a date or anything in a while.
right.
So it's knowing that, or learning that, you know what I liked 10 years ago,
Mm.
what I what what my love language was 10 years ago
Mm.
may not be my love language now.
Ooh.
And that honestly has probably been something I have realized more in the past year.
Mm.
And like back then I didn't think about that. Like
Right.
we did the whole the love languages and the oh gosh, what was that? We talked about this recently.
Oh, Love Dare? No,
The
is
love, yes, the Love Dare. There was that movie that came out,
yes, with
and
not growing pains. What's his Oh,
Cameron,
he was in one of
Kirk
our
Cameron, Kirk
yes,
Cameron,
and
yes.
what movie was he in, or what sitcom was he in when we were growing up? Wasn't he a doctor? Anyways,
No,
not the
not Doogie
point.
Howser. I'm
No,
sorry.
not the point. Keep
Right, right.
going.
Squirrel.
Yes.
No,
Love language and the
yes,
love dare. Yes.
yes. And so we went through all that early in our marriage before we had kids. But then I feel like it's kind of like, well, chapters, what we kind of talked about
Mm,
before. Like we kind of had that chapter of just dating, like in getting to know each other that way, and then we get married, and then it's for me. I mean, we went to college, and had roommates or whatever, but like we didn't really like live on our own until we lived together. So
Mm-hmm.
then that was like learning each other, learning how to
Mm-hmm.
take care of a household together, and something neither one of us had really done a whole lot. I mean,
Right.
just besides like during school, but and then kids come into the picture, and then you got then there's a whole different
Readjust.
set
Yes.
of, and then the different stages of the kids, and then and then I think about we're eventually going to be empty nesters, and you talk about how people, I've heard people say you get to that stage and you go, well, I don't even know you. I don't even know you anymore. Like,
Mm.
I don't even,
Right.
but I don't want that to be us. And I feel like we try really hard for that not to be us. So, but man, it's a lot of changes. And I'm like,
Dragging him along.
dragging him
Yeah.
along with me through this, and it's remembering to bring each other along through that.
Mm.
So
So funny story, and I said that I wasn't going to go here, but here I am. You said love languages. So I know what Justin's love language is, and I know what my love language is acts of service. 100% all the time, it's acts of service. His love language is physical touch. So once Justin doesn't Justin doesn't listen to the podcast. Justin doesn't read the books. Like Justin,
yeah,
I can tell him all day long. He's just not, he is who he is, and take it or leave it.
yeah,
Right. And that's what I love about him.
yeah.
So I was trying to explain to him about these different like love languages, and I teach him along those a lot of the things that I'm learning. So one day I was saying, like, my is acts of service, like, helping me do things, or,
Hmm.
he helps me a lot with puzzle pieces and building that. And I sometimes over exhaust him in those areas. There's a limit to acts of service, I guess. But so one day, I was coming home from work, and he was in the floor and he was doing laundry, and he was like, "Is this the acts of service?" I said, "Yes." And he was like, "Okay, mine's acts of physical." I was like,
Okay, now
"Well
it's your turn.
played, well played." I think that, so I say that, but humor is one of the things that him and I have really tried to laugh through, even sometimes of the hard times. And I remember
Mhm.
when we went through infertility, and I forgot that he was going through it too when I was going through something, and I discredited the impact. But then like he would bring humor, and I'm like, how can you bring? But I think sometimes learning each other's what their strengths are, just like if they were a
Mhm.
coworker, like trying
Yeah.
to figure out what is their strengths and what are they leaning into to make this situation better.
Mhm.
And I always try to pull the best of us out in reference to that. So yeah, anyways, you said love languages, and
No,
it
yeah,
reminds me of
that's
that story and the humor that we have in our
if
marriage.
I mean, that I feel like that too. Like we have to laugh. We have to laugh about things
Mm.
because I mean, we had a situation recently where I had to tell Riley, I said, adulting sucks.
Doesn't it?
I mean, I said, just stay, like, go to college and
Mm.
just stay a kid as long as possible. But I mean, really, like, most of the time, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry about it. So, and we laugh about things too. And that we make, well, we're talking about our son, Jax. He used to always, like, Neil would always say his goal in life is just to make it. He says women. He's talking about me
Mm.
and my mom and his mom, his Jax's grandmothers. It is his goal in life just to make y'all laugh. Like, y'all think he's so cute, and it's just his gut. Like, that is what he lives for. And I kind of feel like sometimes that's, sorry, Neil, but I like he likes to make me laugh, and I think he's fun. He is funny.
He's funny.
He is funny. So, but it is good. I mean, the humor helps
Mm.
through most situations.
Well, because there's going to be hard situations. I don't think whenever I got married, and I don't know, and I'm not speaking for everybody. I don't When I got married, I wanted like the fairy tale romance. Like it was, I wanted, tell me you love me, bring me the flowers, like I wanted the romance. I didn't realize that, I guess, romance is not what's going to necessarily get you through life's hardest times. And
No.
so, as I'm rewriting that, or I have in the last several years, is that I'm really just searching for like that peace and that security within our relationship
Mhm.
of just, I need like emotional regulation. And I don't want the flowers. I just want to be thought of
Mhm.
before. And I remember telling like sometimes our biggest fights, um early on, and maybe even now, I feel like I've let it all go now, but maybe early on some of our biggest disagreements were, can you not just think of something before I have to tell you? Like, I don't want to tell you where I want to go on a date. I don't want to
Yeah.
plan it. I don't want to do those things. And he was like, well, how am I going to know that you're going to like? I'm like, surprise me. I love surprises, right?
Yeah.
And so now that that's been a I just make so many decisions a day. And
Yeah.
now, like, I feel like that's the shift in us, that like when I feel understood and like, you know what? You don't have to think about dinner tonight because I know you've probably made 1,000 different decisions,
Yes.
and let me do it. Like that is trying to understand each other and the life that they have outside of the marriage.
Mhm.
Because I think oftentimes we don't think like I don't know. I assume what his day is because of what he does, and
Yeah.
there's no way he can even fathom what my day looks like on a net.
Right.
And I don't want to come home and
Yeah.
re-encounter that. And so I think that's the was the harder part, is like trying to understand each other enough of what we need before we say what we need. And I think
Mhm.
that kind of does what Love Dare is like
Yeah.
trying to think of, if you can love your partner the way that they want to be loved and
Mhm.
think of them, then that makes everything easier. Not
Right.
love the way that you want
You
to be
wanna do
loved.
it, or just the way you wanna do it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that doing some of those challenges and bringing some of those things back up, is that has helped. If I always love him the way that he wants to be loved, or think it through of how he thinks, if we both did that, we're always golden.
Right.
It's just that slippery slope
Mhm.
when you don't. Um, I think I read this book one time when we first got, probably our first year of marriage, and I still go back to it. I wish I would have right now tell you what it's called. I think it's like Respect, Love and Respect, or something. It's a faith foundational book for marriage.
Is it, um, loving her, respect him, or something like
Something,
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that
Yeah.
same
I've heard of that. Yeah.
concept, because men want to feel respected
Mhm.
and women want to feel loved.
Right.
And so a lot of times, like in disagreements, or when you're not feeling it, like in your partnership, right? You're 9 out of 10 times, somebody's got to give out of that circle, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like that's what I've like have learned now, that I'm willing to just like, I will show you respect so that in return I can get the love. Like
Right.
somebody's got to break the hamster wheel to
Right.
get back, or you're going to continue to disrespect. And so in turn, they're going to continue not to give you the love that you want.
Right.
And somebody's got to be willing to break that cycle.
Yeah. 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 Because, and I feel like with any relationship, there's going to be ebbs and flows to it. Like we're going to hit that rough patch where we kind of feel disconnected,
Mm.
and then somebody's got to do something
Mm-hmm.
intentional to kind of get you back. Like I feel that a lot, especially, with his job, like we have a season,
Right.
and I don't, I feel a lot more disconnected during that
Mm.
time. But
Mm.
I don't want to be the needy wife who's like, see me, love me.
Right.
So I try to, like, just, my way to show him love during that time is to try to take care of all the household things and the
Mm.
kid things as much as I can, so he doesn't have to worry as much about it. So, but upon doing that, after a while, you start feeling like, oh, okay, I'm tired of doing all, like, I feel like I'm doing this by myself.
Right. Right.
And then when spring hits and he's home, and then it's like,
That
like we
reconnection.
kind of
Mm.
reconnected. And he's very intentional about, like we may not go do some big elaborate date because honestly, we're both pretty big homebodies,
Mm,
or just hanging out with people. Like we
mm,
don't have to go out to eat, or we don't have to go do something.
mm,
But ours will be like, okay, let's have the kids go spend the night at my parents' house and just have the house to ourselves and not
mm.
have to worry about fixing them food, or
Right.
so we can totally like concentrate on just us and just whatever we want to do, whether we're sitting there just watching TV, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be some big thing. But he's really good about like looking ahead at our calendar and being like, okay, we've got this weekend and it's gonna be the only weekend for a while.
Right,
So
right.
we want to do something, like we need to be thinking about making plans. So he's really good about that because I'm more of a last minute person, and
Mm,
it's sometimes hard to do those kind of things last minute. So
right. Well, and I think sometimes, especially younger people in their marriage or when they're dating or whatever that may look like, I think it's easier to be spontaneous, and I feel like there's a sense of like intimacy and romance and this thought that like spontaneous, like the spontaneousness, is that the that's not a word.
spontaneity.
Thank you.
Ooh.
I will not try to repeat that. But being spontaneous, there's a sense of like fun and whirlwind around that. But as you get older, it's harder to be spontaneous. And so therefore, I used to think like if you have to plan it, if it's intentionality, like is it real? Like can it be like I think that I
Take
had to
some of the
change,
spark out of it.
yeah, like I had to change my mindset around what I've like you talk about like the definition of success, like and all those things. I've had to like redefine and think about what's the definition of like marriage and love.
Mhm.
And because I kind of and this was probably like at my immaturity, but I wanted all the sparks to fly, and it
Yes.
comes so natural and easy, and that's not true partnership a lot of
No,
times because
no. Not
and
when you have, especially when your kids are young. And I mean, now it's a little bit easier
right,
because, the kids can stay home and fend for themselves for a date night, like a quick last minute decision.
right, right.
But when they were little, like there was no spontaneity,
Mhm.
because you had to find a sitter.
Right, right,
So
right.
unless, like you secretly one of you secretly had a sitter lined up. But then it was almost like sometimes he was gone so much, he would be gone so much during the basketball season, and I would be like, I'd been home with the kids. I'm ready to ship them
It's
off, but he's ready to
to
see
have a
them,
break,
have time with
right.
them because he hadn't been with them as
Mhm.
much. So I would. There was a whole time where there was a lot of times that
Timing was off in a sense.
yes, and or they would go to grandparents, but he'd be like, "Well, I want them back home by like lunchtime the next day,"
Mm.
and I'd be like, "Can you just stay all day?" And so, but I get, I
Yeah.
had to understand his viewpoint because he wasn't with them as much as I was at certain times of the year. So, um,
It's trying
it's
to
just
always think about the other person and their needs, and I think if we do that better, I think sometimes I tend to only I want to be selfish in my own, but what we're taught and what
it's
that
just
found
human nature.
right.
Yeah.
I always say this. I think I even wrote a blog about it. Um, I was getting my hair done one day, and there was this little old lady getting her hair done, and at that time, I think she said that she was about to celebrate her 70th wedding anniversary. And I said, "What is the secret to like just like being married that long, like a happy marriage?" And she was like, "The secret is if you never fall out of love at the same time. That is your ultimate goal." And it really stuck with me
Wow.
because she said you're going to be not you're naive if you think that you're not going to fall out of love with your husband. There's going to be a day that you're going to look like you're going to be out of love with you're going to love him,
Hmm.
but you're not going to be in love with him, and vice versa. You just can't let that. Y'all both have to put effort into realizing you're not going to do it at the exact same time, and somebody's got to be always be willing to fight for and recognize like, ooh, they're in a season of like they might not be in love with me right now, and like somebody's got to be willing to break that hamster wheel
Wow.
to fight.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that was probably the best advice, to not say like marriage is hard, you
Yeah.
got to choose love every day.
Yep.
um and I feel like that's what I've continued, I and I think one of the things I've learned too is, um if you hold on to resentment, if there's like resentment towards your significant other, I feel as though that like provides like distance. So I would not let, like, I don't try to let things go. Like if I feel it, um and I'm like hurt by something, or if something doesn't feel right, or I feel like we're off, I say it a lot sooner than I used to.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, and not every disagreement has to be war. And
Oh, yeah.
when we were younger and the marriage, girl,
Yeah.
I'm like, bring on World War III. Let's go. I will
Yeah.
go to bat. But now I'm like, just because we're having a disagreement, let's
Right.
not carry this over into
It's
it
exhausting. And it's
is.
like, and nobody have time for that. Ain't nobody have time for that. Like, let's just figure it out and move on. And I mean, that was my top one, the communication.
Mm,
Going through kind of the all this perimenopause bull crap, um, and not really understanding it completely, and not really know what was going on with me, and I was having all these feelings, and I kind of iced him out.
mm.
Um, and because first of all, it was in the middle of ball season. I didn't want to put something else on his plate to have to worry about or deal with. Like the last thing I wanted him to do was be worrying about me. And but I mean, he came home and it told me. Well, he's told me multiple times since then. Like he said, I thought you were gonna walk in the door one day and tell me you wanted a divorce. Like that's
Mm,
how like disconnected and how bad it was. And I didn't really like I said, I didn't really. It was one of those times too where I was like, well, if he knows something's wrong with me, then, or if he thinks something wrong with me, like you should ask me about it, or
mm.
you should already know, or Well, I kind of laughed
Eh.
today because we posted one of our TikToks, and it was the the different perimenopause
Oh, yeah.
symptoms.
Oh,
Okay,
itchy ears.
the itchy ears.
Neil Hayden.
And he comments on it and said, itchy ears, is that really a thing? Yes. But you don't know it. Like
Right.
I remember last year, and it hasn't been as bad now, so I don't know what has changed. But I remember I would be walking around my classroom like this. And there was one day I was like, I wanted to scream. They were itching so bad, like inside your ears where you can't really scratch.
Mm,
And I didn't know it was a perimenopause symptom.
right.
Well, I mean, he doesn't know either.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
when I'm irritated because my ears are itching, like I need to just tell him that instead of like being a psychopath about it, I guess. So that, I mean,
I think in their defense too, I think that they get the worst. They get the worst side of us, right? Like,
yeah,
meaning it might not be about them, but somehow we make it like we not. And I'm not saying you, me. I should say that, like, not everybody does what I do because I'm crazy, but
we're all
I could
crazy.
be mad about something else, but he could do the littlest thing and it wouldn't have ticked me off. But by George, now I'm mad at you for everything that everybody else did and what
Yeah.
you just did.
Well, because you hold it together, you have to be professional and you get to go home and you don't have to have that mask up anymore. And I try to remember that too, like going home, like, okay, I'm pissed off at the world, but he honestly did not do a thing besides be there. So you know, I need to talk to him about it and
Mm,
let him be there for me about it. And,
right.
um, anyways, so yeah, the perimenopause and we don't even know what's going on with our body and they
No.
don't know what's going on with our body or our minds or our emotions, and how do you communicate that? I mean, it's I don't know. So.
Well, I think it's going to always kind of like, I know I compare this to like leadership, but like leadership, there's no like destination. You're always growing, you're always learning. And I feel as though marriage is the exact same way. Like
Mm-hmm.
it ebb and flows. There's going to be seasons and you're constantly learning. And you should want to always learn how to be a better husband, a better
Right.
wife for your partner. And I feel like, I hear people say this all the time, like, man, I want a better marriage or I want this. I'm like, but what are you doing to instill a better marriage? Like, are
Right.
you reading a marriage book? Like, are you going to counseling?
Yeah.
Are you going back to faith to understand what that looks like? Like, there are ways, like, you can't just hope that it's going to be better.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discredit, like, there are people that change and there are reasons to,
Right.
I don't want to discredit any of that.
Yeah.
There are times, whatever that may be, but for me and what I've learned, and the situation of me and my husband at this point, what I am rewriting is like, I'm honoring it and putting like our peace, first. I'm being transparent and open about like how I feel. Like, I'm not mad at you, I am mad at the world, I can't explain it, so you better just walk away.
Yeah.
And then like let me be, because I will most likely like circle back. And I'm trying not to, like, I guess, get my feeling, like, I realized early on, and this is one of the things I really have tried to work hard on, is like I would let the littlest things just hurt my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if somebody else would have do the exact same thing or say that it would totally, like, I have a tough skin, but like it's like I want to be strong for everybody else. I'm like this strong woman,
Mm-hmm.
but like with him, I want to like puddle up and be like,
Uh-huh.
and I'm
You
like,
take care of me,
yeah, and
Yeah.
so. And I think he fell in love with me because I'm a strong woman, So like
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy how you don't know how people are behind like closed doors. And I
Right.
feel like that open line, like going back to what you're saying, that open line of communication of just being like, I don't know what's going on, or, like, I'm not happy, right? Like, I don't know how, if Justin was listening to this right now, he won't. We all know this. It's
I
fine.
hope he does.
But I to that point, some of our biggest things is like I wanted him to be my everything. I wanted him to be my cheerleader. I wanted him to be my husband. I wanted him to be my best friend. I wanted him to be, helping me and dream with me and all things. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, he can't be my everything.
Mm-mm.
And we shouldn't want our part, like, I wanted him just to be my husband, and
Mm-hmm.
the love that we built. And when I let go of everything else, so like, again, probably 15 years ago, it would have bothered me if he's not listening to the podcast, because this is my thing, like, why don't you want to support me?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't need him to do that, because there's other ways that I need from him, and
Right.
I need that intimacy and that love and that care for and that understanding and that trust and that emotional regulation. Like, that's what I need from him. And just that he brings out the best parts of me when no one else can bring out those parts, to like
Mm-hmm.
let my hair down and
Yeah.
forget about being so serious.
Yeah.
Because if you met Justin, there's not a serious tone in him. I'm like the serious, and he's like, all right, come on now. Life's not that crazy, right? So I don't know.
No.
I just said a lot, but
No, I mean, there's so many factors. It's crazy because you have all these different facets of your life, but then it's like almost all of it has to go into your marriage.
mm,
Does that make sense?
yes,
Like you've got your careers,
yes.
you have your kids, you have your like aging parents,
Mm,
um and then you have, so like all of those things have to, those are all somewhat separate, but then it's like it all has to, because it's all a part of your
mm,
lives, and so then you got to find a way to tweak your marriage around all of those things, because you know it was taking care of the kids and
mm,
the partnership in that, and helping each other, and coming along beside each other and being a united
mm,
face
mm.
for whatever we're telling
Not
our
good
kids.
cop, bad cop situation.
Right,
Never.
right. And even when we don't agree with each other on that, we had to, show, I still want the kids to see what a good, healthy marriage is.
Mm,
But then, the kids are going to get older and they're going to grow up and eventually get married. And that's, I don't want to say that job is done, but I mean, that part of the job is
mm.
done. Cause I mean, you just, here you go. But then, we're eventually then going to have to be helping maybe our parents more. And so that's going to take time away from each other sometimes. And so I feel like then that's going to be something else we're going to have to figure out.
Mm, mm,
And eventually maybe grandkids. And
mhm,
like then it just when maybe you feel like you got the hang of it on that part of life, then there's going to be this other facet that you have to like figure out, how does our marriage work
mm,
with this thing?
right.
So it like you said, it's that constantly growing and changing and wanting it to be better and be better for each other around whatever else is going on in life.
Mm.
So
Well, and I think I'm in awe of so in not knowing you all before, right? I think it's one of the things that I'm in awe of, and I love getting to know people's like love story or how they navigate marriage sometimes, and when you're just like around people, like I always say like you're a direct reflection of the five people that you spend the most time with. And so like sometimes like when like in my friendships, like your marriage becomes sometimes a reflection of other people's marriage, and you want to embrace or find like it's crazy, but like all of my bestest like my best friends, we're all still married, like
yeah.
we have not, luckily we have not divorced and those type of things. And so we know that that's very unheard of in the
Mhm.
circle that the tight circle that we have. And so one of the things I've been in awe of, and that you have to know that y'all have survived, you going through breast cancer,
Mhm.
you have survived the loss of a child. So like your foundation of marriage, when you say like, okay, I have to bring him along, y'all both had to bring each other along through so many hardships and things that have happened, not to your marriage, but in your marriage. So
Mhm.
like when you're saying like things funnel in, I feel like oftentimes when we're picking our spouse or we're getting married at the altar and saying our vows, we have no idea what life is about to happen to
Right.
us. And so I think I'm in awe of like even through it all. I'm not saying it wasn't easy. I'm not saying that marriage is not easy,
No.
but continuing to choose like love. Like and let's just be honest. I think we've had these conversations too, and it's very easy for women to get together and be like, that is so like
Yep. Yep.
I'm guilty of that. But what I want in a friend and what I want, like that's why I'm very particular about the people that are around me and I associate with, is because I want someone to be like, okay, I hear you, sucks, but this is what you should do with like
Yeah.
this is how you reshape that, or go back to like your faith journey, go back to the roots of it, and bring out the best part of my like of Justin, like he didn't really mean that way, or maybe you all should take a
Right.
moment.
Instead of joining in with you and
Yes.
yeah, he's terrible. Yeah. I get cuz and and Neil was telling me this recently. He says, and I figured this is probably true for a lot of men just because the difference between men and women
Mm-hmm.
is he's like, I've never ever talked to a friend like when we're having a fight and said anything like negative about you.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, like I appreciate that. Um, and I don't want to say we're like bashing our husbands
Oh
when we
no,
get
no.
together. It's
Neil,
just
just for
like
the record, Chrissy has never bashed you while you're
no,
mowing
not
the lawn right
no,
now listening.
it's just talking to a friend about something that's
The
bothering you,
hard, yes.
what's hard um and we don't sit around and say our husbands are terrible, but if there's an issue, sometimes that's just what women do.
It
Like we're not
is.
husband bashing
It
or
is.
we don't. I mean,
Right.
I don't, and I know some women
Mm.
may do, and that's
I think
to
I
each their own. If that's what you need to do, that's fine. But we just choose to not do that.
right.
Um I mean sometimes that's hard. But like I feel like we have come to a place in our marriage where like let's just talk about it.
Mm.
Like let's just talk it out. And then by the time I'm with friends, it's kind of it, like we're
Mm,
not holding on to
mm.
those things as long as we used to.
Well, and I think that that's something that I guess because I am that I am that person. Um, oh, no, I'm not that person. I think I'm just. I guess the point I'm trying to say is I'm very fortunate that in those moments I have broke down and said like I don't know that I can do this anymore. Like I'm struggling. Like I am so mad at him. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I'm very honest. Like I have been in those hardships of those marriages. Been very open about like we've had to have marriage. Like I grew into this different woman, and that was really hard in
Hmm.
our marriage. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful to be surrounded by people along that way that told me it's worth fighting for, like, and
Right.
not get on the
Hmm.
bandwagon of like
Hmm.
the bashing and or like, oh, just grass is greener on the other
Yeah.
side, leave. Like I think my point of what I want to say is like if somebody is listening that they're surrounded by like marriage is worth fighting for, like
Hmm.
choosing love is worth fighting, like all of those things, like be surrounded by people that are going to bring out the best
Right.
and push you into that direction. And we've just had some really hard times of learning through what that looks like, and I'm just very grateful. I think that really changed the trajectory of where Jess and I are now, based on the people that we were surrounded with in those times where it was really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always been pretty transparent with that along the way, and I think now we're just in this very like we want to prioritize like our peace,
Hmm.
and I think we're done. I think he knows that I'm gonna continue to grow as like who knows what I'm gonna come up with
Right.
next.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, we're gonna rock and roll. And I don't feel like I think he allows me to now be that person without holding me back. And I think that that's where it was really, really hard. And no one when I was struggling with that, I had a lot of women in my circle that was trying to get me through what that looked like. And so that's what I was saying, to you. Like I'm just really not envious, but like I am very taken back by all the hard that you all have encountered just by life circumstances, right? That the love that you all have and continue to have, like, because y'all have been through some hard stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think we're ever not growing, right? We're never
Right.
not learning and communicating and figuring. It's just hard. It's
It is
hard.
hard. It is hard. And it's funny to look back on any of those really hard times. And I mean, this always puts things in perspective. Through all when we were in the midst of those things, um, I mean, our biggest fights never came out of any of those circumstances.
Mm,
And
mm,
so I like, okay, if we could manage and navigate our way through those times and not have completely strangled each
mm,
other,
mm.
like why what is this? Like
Right.
this is nothing
That,
compared to that.
yes, yes.
So I always go
Mm,
back to those things. Like, I mean, we, with Jordan, we lived in a hotel room
mm,
basically for months, and lived away, from home. And it, I look back
mm,
on, I'm like, how, we sat in this sometimes teeny tiny little hospital room all day long,
mm,
every single day. And uh, I don't ever remember being like, I just remember thinking I could not do this without him.
mm,
I we, while we were going through that, there was several like things that had happened to people we knew. It just seemed like a really hard time, like for just people around us. But a a friend from back home who was a young father and husband that was just a few years older than us. He died in a tragic accident, like while we were in
Mm,
Louisville.
mm,
And he was like a family friend and stuff. So we came back for the funeral during that time, and I just remember thinking, like, seeing his wife there, I just remember thinking, this is harder. This
mm,
is harder than what we were going through. It
mm.
would be for me. So, um, yeah. So that, there was a lot of things put in perspective during that time. So,
Do you think that uh, and I don't know this to be true, but like, do you feel like that built a stronger sense of like love and awareness for each other because
mhm,
of the hard that you all had to go through?
mhm. I mean, I think so. I think it did for me is, I watched him be the strongest person that I could imagine,
Mm,
but then also, and for, I think for both of us, and but then also seeing the complete and utter
mm,
breakdowns at
mm,
times. So, he
mm,
didn't have, knowing that he didn't have to be this super strong husband all the time, that he could have those times
mm.
to melt down. And of course I did it way more often than he did. But knowing for each other that we were with each other through every single part of it. So there was never a part where I felt alone
Mm,
through any of it. And I mean, and obviously, like, other family and friends were such great support through all of that. But it was those, when they weren't there,
mm.
we were always there for
There,
each other. It was
right.
always just us. So,
I think that's important for people to hear that, like, even in the hardest times, you might not know it then, but you
mm,
can honor the love that was in, like,
right.
within that got you through. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if I think of anything, like, I'm like, oh well, like when you think about like your last breath, like I want that to be my husband. Like I
Hmm.
want my husband.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's that kind of deep love.
Right.
Like um, now, if he doesn't unload the dishwasher, I'm just kidding. But it's funny what we get distracted by, but at the end of at the core of it, the love that you can find within if you focus in on the right things.
Hmm.
And
And not focus on those things that
stupid,
don't matter,
right?
those silly things that you go back and go, like, our biggest fights would be over usually finance and
Mm,
money. And it was usually, I think, just sometimes the stress of things.
mm,
Um, and figuring out, I mean, like I said, we were growing up together and
right.
figuring out finances and insurance and all that stuff
Mhm.
together. And I think it was, having the growing pains through all of that, and which most of it I still don't understand, but that's another story. Um, but looking back now, like we were just different in that.
Mm,
Like, he was a super saver and very frugal, and I was pretty much given
mm,
anything I wanted.
mm,
And mom, dad, I need $20 or
mhm.
whatever, or whatever I
Right.
wanted. They usually bought me.
Mm.
So I just didn't have we just didn't
Just
have that same, you know,
to
ideas
right,
around it, or
right.
didn't mean the same thing to both of us. So that was a
So it's
struggle through. But looking back now, I'm like, it was money. Like, yes, it's important
mm,
because we have to have it to live, but, like, it just,
mm,
anyways, and there, he'll go back, he'll tell you too, they're like, he does a lot of self development and things
mm.
like that. He reads your kind of
I know
books.
how yeah,
He
we
reads your, they share book titles and stuff all the time. I'm like, I'm not reading that. But he'll tell you certain books he read that really changed his perspective
Mm,
on things, like the just what you're spending your time and
mm,
energy
mm.
on. And him realizing that, um it wasn't my intention to do that.
Right,
That was a
right.
big turning point, I think, in our marriage, like,
Mm.
where he might get really mad at me about something, and here I am laid back. I'm like, sorry, and I don't think he thought I took things, maybe some of those things, serious enough. and
Mm, mm,
and then, but he read a book one time about intentionality,
mm,
and you have to remember that you might get angry with that person, but they didn't.
What was their intention
Yes, what was
behind?
their intention? Their intention was never to hurt you, or they
Mm,
didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to do this to get at him," or whatever.
mm,
And that really was a turning point, I feel like, in our marriage, over
like,
like arguments and
mm,
things like that. Like, just and me not being such a
mm,
big baby about getting my feelings hurt all the time.
mm, mm.
Like I can see different parts, different times in our marriage where those things kind of changed a lot.
Well, and it's learning how to communicate in different perspectives and trying
Hmm.
to understand the other person's perspective. Or I think we bring in how we grew up, and so I feel like there's and I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because that's a whole nother thing that like I spent a whole lifetime talking about. But one of the things that Justin and I feel like that's why we're like sacred into. We'll be empty nesters, but one day we'll have to take care of my brother. So
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm crying. And so like we know that we have to like live out everything that we can possibly live out, because not only will we be taking care of my parents, we'll eventually be taking care of my brother. So I thought that was going to be like a strain on our marriage, but really it's like making us stronger to be
Hmm.
able to be prepared
Right.
for when that. I don't know why in the world I am crying right
Girl,
now.
it's let it out.
It's
Let
premenopause. It's
spill it.
premenopause.
Spill it. Spill it all right here. That's what this is for. That's what this is for.
But I think that too. I married a man. I said this, and I had to give a presentation. And growing up, I prayed not for a man that loved me, but I prayed for a man that would love my brother. And luckily, I got both.
Hmm.
So um, yeah, it partnership and learning through it and choosing love and choosing to stay in love. I
Hmm.
don't think we talk and be are honest about how hard that really is sometimes, because we're all human. We're all not going to show up as our best self.
No, we're
Um,
in human nature is to be selfish,
a hundred, yes,
So it's you have to remember not to, not to be,
right.
which
And
is hard.
I'm still learning that
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day,
yeah.
and to be selfless and whatever. So, with that being said, is there anything that you want to? Do you have a quote? Do you have a
Girl,
quote?
I do.
I love that.
Okay, I don't know if it's necessarily a quote. I mean, I think people have heard this, but you, you actually kind of said part of it.
Oh.
And you were talking of like you said something and but I didn't want to interrupt you, so I didn't say it.
Mm.
But because sometimes when I say it gets us off track a little bit. That's okay.
The rabbit.
So when you said the grass is not always green on the other side, and
Mm,
realizing people, thinking I'm just gonna get a divorce, and
mm, mm.
but so I just recently saw the quote that said, "The grass isn't always green on the other side. Maybe you should water your own."
Yes. Yeah.
I've heard that
Mm.
before, but
Oh, yeah.
that like sometimes,
We're
yeah,
not watering our own grass, and we think that that grass is going to
yeah,
be green.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not always. And
Mm.
I mean, I feel that way like in a lot of things too, like careers and
Right.
jobs and things like that too. So,
What you focus on expands, and I think so
hmm,
many times the last thing that we do focus in on is our marriage,
hmm,
because we feel like it should last the and stand this test of time. Is that how it
stand the
goes?
test of time. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
as it should, but not without work
right,
and not without intentionality and thinking of the other person and what their needs are. And if we're constantly doing that, then it will stand the test of time. Or
right,
when life throws you a curveball,
hmm,
you'll be able to hit it out of the park.
right.
I love sports analogy. um, but I'm not gonna say that we have the best, like I have the best marriage. I definitely don't. And but we are learning how to be the best that we can be for one another along the way. And I will to the end till to my deathbed, I will continue to try
Hmm.
to always love him more than he could love me.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
all right. What do you have? What's the next? No, we don't. Oh no, I put her
Listen,
on the
listen,
spot.
this is a great time, I feel like, for
Mm,
our listeners to start dropping in some ideas. I mean, we have ideas. We just don't have we don't have them
Like
nailed
banked
down,
up.
planned
Yes.
out. But I would love to hear some things that our listeners are kind of going through, or things you would like for us to talk about. Or, I mean, throw some stuff out there. Throw some
Yeah.
uncomfortable stuff out there. We would love to entertain you with trying to
Our
talk about things
thoughts.
that we don't know enough about or whatever.
Well,
So,
and they can do that by like going on any of our social media
yes.
platforms. You can DM us or comment. I think right now more people are entertained by our singing TikToks. And if I haven't said this already, I think I said this on the last episode, but Christy has this crazy talent to nailing lip singing of these videos. It's mesmerizing actually, and it pisses me off because I'm
She tells me
not
every
good at
time.
it.
She tells me every time.
I'm so mad at I hate not being good at something.
Shit, I don't know. I have there's no trick. I have no idea. I don't really think I'm that great at it, but
She
if she
really
does,
is.
I'm going with it.
She
So
really is.
it's fun. But
And I love bringing back the old school songs. So
oh yeah,
if there's a video that you would like us to reenact,
if you
a
use a
singing
TikTok, you'd like
video,
for us to send it our way.
send it. We'll
Send
do
it.
it. All right. Until next time, guys, have a coffee, have a marg, or whatever you do, and come back and listen to us at the next episode. All right. That's it for today's meeting of the Margarita Book Club.
Thanks for sitting with us and spilling the real for a little while.
If today's conversation sounded like a lot of your own thoughts, you're definitely not alone.
Follow us on social media at Spill the Real.
And come back next week for another round of Real Talk. Same book club, no reading required.